Welcome, Speaker Ryan.
Hey, Merry Christmas. How are you doing, Dr. Bennett?
Well, I'm doing, thanks to you, I'm doing interestingly. Get by with the help of my friends. No, it's good to have you. Let's get right into this, because a lot of people, people who've applauded you, supported you in the past are very upset, and let's find out why.
Sure.
The GOP, I'm going to read this just the way the guy wrote it. The GOP's been in leadership in the House for several years now. Why are spending bills always at the last second? And why are they omnibus bills?
Well, I hate omnibus bills, and I don't like doing these last-second bills. This was the process I inherited, and the reason this year is Harry Reid filibustered all but one appropriation bill this past year, and our own caucus, we seized up in the middle of the summer, unable to pass any additional appropriations bill because of some poison pill amendments. That's why we seized up. Now, what I have told our members of Congress is we're going to take any amendment, because I'm opening up the rules next year, so that we get back to regular order. We have a new commitment in the Senate to not block appropriation bills. And by having this budget agreement that my predecessor put in place, we no longer have a dispute over what we call the sequester. So the reason for the filibusters is gone. And by getting the slate cleaned now, by getting this behind us, we can start our appropriations process early next year and do it the right way. Individual bills, all 12 bills, open up the process, let anybody bring whatever amendment they want to an appropriations bill, and do it the way the founders intended it to be done in the first place. That's one of the reasons why we had to get this omnibus done, so that we can get back to regular order and open the process up like it was supposed to be.
Now, I know our friend Dave, who wrote this first question, would follow up and say, but it's always the future. It's never now. We never take the stand now.
Well, that's true. I've heard. I'm one of these people who said I've heard this before. Well, I inherited the process, which was the cake was already baked. This was already pretty much 95% completed.
Right.
And the question was, do we spill this over into next year and therefore delay us from actually getting to regular order? I want to get this 2015 behind us as fast as possible, so that 2016 can be the new year that I intended to be. I'm going to do things much differently. I've already done things a lot differently. People know that. And so that's why I want to get 2015 behind us. The other thing was we weren't going to get any kind of long-term extension or, say, continuing resolution. And our biggest concern was the military. The thing that was accomplished in the budget agreement passed a few months ago was to prevent the sequester from hitting the military. And more than half the money in this omnibus goes to the military. And we didn't want to use the military as a political pawn. We didn't want to sacrifice the additional resources we were able to achieve for the military in this game, and we wanted to get on to making 2016 a more productive year.
All right. When will we see regular order?
Now that we're done with 2015, we'll see it when we get back right away.
Okay, good. January.
In January we're going to go back to, we've got regular order. By the way, we've done regular order on all these other bills. Now we can get regular order on all bills because of this omnibus.
People also ask every third call, why not shut the government down? It'll be Obama who's shutting it down. Why not?
There are a lot of those theories. We just didn't want to hurt the military. You have to understand, shutting it down also deprives the troops of their pay. It also deprives the men and women who are out there fighting for us of their resources. Now, look, you've heard me as a strong critic of Obama's foreign policy and his ISIS policy. Nevertheless, we have to go on offense in the war on terror. We have to go on offense internationally. And by shutting the government down, you're bringing the military to a screeching halt. And we just do not want to use the men and women in our uniform as political pawns in this game. We want to get this behind us. We got some pretty good wins, by the way. We got some important wins for conservatives. We want to bank those wins and then come back and fight for more and get the military the resources they need, which was one of the biggest wins we got in the omnibus bill in the first place.
And that oil export is a big deal, right? That's a very big
deal. That was probably the biggest win. For 40 years, we've banned the export of oil from America. By lifting the ban permanently, we can cut off Putin. We can help give Europe another source of oil. We can displace OPEC from dictating the terms of the international oil markets. We could displace Venezuela. We can create up to 1 million new jobs in America. It's like 100 Keystone pipelines. And the irony of this is we lifted the ban on the crude oil export the week after Obama goes to Paris and does this climate change accord. I think the irony is fairly sweet.
Okay. I'm asking these questions just as our listeners have asked them and as they have aggregated around certain issues. Why did you fund Planned Parenthood? A lot of distress about that, a lot.
Well, first of all, we did put the riders on Planned Parenthood to prevent them from having any money going toward abortion like we have in the past. And we maintained all of our Hyde Amendment protections for pro-life. So we maintained our pro-life riders. But what we realized was that the Planned Parenthood defunding bill was going to get filibustered in the Senate. So we weren't even going to get past the U.S. Senate with a Planned Parenthood bill in the omnibus. So we used the one tool we could use to prevent a filibuster and advance this bill, which was what we call reconciliation. So we have Planned Parenthood defunded in the reconciliation bill. You can use this bill once a year, and we used it for this. It is now passed the Senate, so that we are able to avoid a filibuster. And so that bill is coming back to the House, and so the first thing we do next year, under regular order, is we will pass the budget reconciliation bill, which gets us our Planned Parenthood defunding bill to the president's desk. Okay. There was no way of getting it to the president's desk with the omnibus. We're getting it to his desk. Then he'll veto it, and we'll have the veto override bill during the March for Life movement when they're in Washington to highlight the contrast that we have with the president on issues like life and Planned Parenthood.
All right, and that's about as good as we can do, right? I mean, we're not going to prevail, though.
Yeah,
right?
the Constitution is the Constitution.
Yeah.
For a bill to become a law, the president has to sign it. If you have to override his veto, you need two-thirds vote in the House and the Senate, which we clearly do not have.
Okay.
And to defund Planned Parenthood, it's a new law that has to pass. Therefore, a president has to sign it. But we couldn't even get it to his desk. Now, because of the way we're doing it through reconciliation, we're getting it to his desk.
Okay, next, and we're talking to Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan. We appreciate it. I know you're talking from home, and we're taking from your family time, but just a couple more.
They're still sleeping.
Okay, do you have snow there?
No, it's crazy. It's warm here. It's like in the 40s. Yeah.
Call Jim Inhofe. Call Al.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Why does the Packers' success depend upon you having an ice bowl, or can you win in regular weather?
It usually helps, especially in postseason.
Got it. Okay, I remember Cowboys.
Except for the Giants game a few years ago, that didn't work. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
You remember these are poignant to you. I know each one piercing the heart. Why is there $1.6 billion for Syrian refugees, but no money for border security?
Well, it's not. No. $1.6 billion is not simply for Syrian refugees. It's for the entire refugee program. You remember the unaccompanied children that got dumped onto the border?
Sure.
From Honduras and Salvador.
Still getting them. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a fear, and we had to go do emergency legislation to accommodate these and put new resources on the border in anticipation of that. Well, there's a fear that could happen again. So that's what this money is for: is to prevent and to prepare for a chance that we might have a whole new raft of unaccompanied children getting put on the border. So it's not for Syrian refugees; it's for all of those refugee and border issues that may arise. Now, we have to pass a law, which we did in the House, changing the way unaccompanied children are treated from non-contiguous countries. That's a different bill that we've passed already in the House that we believe in, but we're worried that there may be another episode on the border this coming summer, and we want to be prepared for that. Syrian refugees. We passed the Syrian refugee bill in the House. Now, the Senate is going to bring it up after the first of the year, and we want them to have a debate and a vote on this. We want the Senate to be on the record for this. We don't want to tuck it away in a 2,000-page omnibus appropriations bill. We want them to have a vote on it and make their votes count, and that's what's going to happen. Mitch McConnell is bringing that bill up over there. But the issue that we learned about in our intelligence briefings was visa waivers. Any radical with one of 38 national passports can get on a plane today in, say, Paris and come here tomorrow for 90 days, no questions asked. That, we believed, was the biggest problem, and we put that in the omnibus bill so that we could put a stop to this visa waiver loophole while we advance the Syrian refugee bill, which the Senate is going to take up after the first of the year.
Isn't it wise, Paul, prudent at this point to just have a hold on immigration?
Absolutely.
From these
That's
countries?
what we passed.
Okay.
I believe we should pause the Syrian refugee program completely.
Okay.
I brought that bill to the floor in a regular order, and we passed it. The Senate's moving it up after the first of the year. But the visa waiver one, that's the clear and present danger that we had to deal with, and we dealt with that last week.
Yeah, that was Tafshin Malik. Yeah, that's right. How many guest workers does the H-2 visa provision add, and do you believe there are not enough Americans to fill these jobs?
Yeah. According to the Congressional Budget Office, it will result in less than 10,000 workers coming next year. It's a one-year provision. It's a very small provision, which was passed in the Appropriations Committee in July with unanimous Republican votes. So this is a very small, discrete provision It's been laying out there for half a year, passed in July, in the light of day for everyone to see. And the reason that this was passed is because there are some seasonal surge jobs that they can't find local workers to fill, like the seafood packaging industry in Chesapeake Bay. You have seafood season. You need people to package those things, to can them. In the north, we have the summer tourism industry. What it is there are seasonal industries where they can't find local people to do the jobs. Kids are already in college or things like that, where you have a surge in workers. This provision says if the person worked at this business within the last 3 years, they can return without counting against the cap, which is 66,000 workers. There has been so much hyperbole about this one provision pinging around the Internet, but that's the problem with omnibus appropriations. Big legislation leads to lots of confusion, lots of misinformation. It doesn't quadruple the program. It doesn't allow hundreds of thousands of people from Muslim countries into the country. It results in less than 10,000 workers who've been here before to help small businesses who cannot find labor when there's a surge in demand for their labor, like seafood processing or tourism. The point is these businesses would have shut down without this, and that's what we didn't want to see happen. We didn't want to see businesses who are seasonal shut down because they couldn't get the labor. That's why this provision was passed in July.
Less than a minute left. What will we see in January? Big picture, 30,000 feet. What will the big fights be about?
You're going to see us put a bill on the president's desk, going after Obamacare and Planned Parenthood. So we'll finally get a bill on his desk to veto. Then you're going to see the House Republican Conference working with our senators coming out with a bold agenda that we're going to lay out for the country to say how we would do things very differently. And you'll see a return to regular order where men and women in Congress can bring their bills to the floor, make their amendments in order, and we will run Congress the way the founders intended it to be run. But the most important thing you'll see is we think the country's headed in the wrong direction. We think Obama has transformed us in a bad way. We owe people an alternative, and that's exactly what we're going to lay out.
Great. Terrific. Thank you, and thank you very much for coming on, Speaker Ryan.
Absolutely, Dr. Bennett.
Thank you, Paul.
Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas to you and your wonderful family. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.